Hello, friends. It's me. It's not really one of these that's going to be set off by a specific prompt. I spent a large portion of tonight listening to weird music and just kind of intentionally dredging up strange memories. And, I did a lot of these videos talking about, neckbeards and whatnot. Specifically the ones I knew, and a lot of the bad moments we had. But at the end of it all, as strange as it was, we were friends. And this is one of those videos that's probably going to do shit, results and the whole algorithm thing, but I feel like it's necessary to tell a story, or multiple stories, about why I liked these people, why I was friends with them. It wasn't just the fact that I didn't really have a lot of friends and that I was weirdly depressed and any of this other stuff. Depression and things like that can build strange friendships, but sometimes friendships that actually, they had a foundation. And a lot of mine with the Neckbeard guys I knew did in fact have a interesting foundation. It's just that time and bad attitudes tend to tear things apart. So I just kind of wanted to go into that. A lot of the good memories that I had with these people, because they were my friends. So I think the best place to start is probably with Elle. I knew him since high school, and we were friends for the longest time. I didn't really see the bad parts of his personality until much later. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that, I had a tendency to overlook red flags because I went through a lot of shit when I was younger, and I tended to trust people who were nice to me. And he was nice to me. And I don't want to say that was entirely a manipulative thing, because I don't really think it was. With any of the neckbeards I knew, I don't really think it was entirely specifically like a manipulative thing. There may have been parts that absolutely were, but there were definitely parts that were not. You know what I'm saying? And this was kind of a thing. So, it's only years later, while looking back on it, that I realized that I was that one weirdo friend that they all had. And if they all have podcasts like I do, but I seriously doubt they do, but if for some reason they do, I'm the weirdo they're probably talking about. If that makes any sense. I was that weird punk goth emo kid that they were totally into. I only recently, to go on a weird tangent, I only recently started looking up what Midwestern emo music is, and I was like, holy shit, it sounds like Ben Folds 5. And I was absolutely into Ben Folds 5 and the Crane Wives and things like that. More recently, the Crane Wives. And also, if you don't know who the Crane Wives is, totally look them up, they're really good. But I was the only friend in a large portion of our friends group, myself and these neckbeards that I knew, who had a functional vehicle. And I did my best to make sure that worked. I did my best to make sure that I had a thing going and could take care of this car and all that kind of stuff. So I first got that car, I want to say around the mid-2000s. I want to say that because my mom replaced the car that I got with a 2004 Oldsmobile Arolla, which was just the fucking worst. We had more problems with that fucking car, I swear to God. And The car I had before I have the war rig that I have now was a 1994 Nissan Sentra. And I had replaced so many things in that car. I had changed so much stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, like, if somebody told me right now for, like, I don't know, let's say $200, I could buy a obviously beat up and in need of repairs 94 Sentra, I'd do it. Because it was the first car my mom gave me, so. But that car actually went to a good cause. This isn't really a thing that fits in with this story, and I realize I'm, like, pausing a lot and drifting off into stuff, and that's probably because I'm more than a little drunk. I usually do not record while I am intoxicated, but this is a special occasion. I just, I really felt like I needed to tell certain stories. So, that was the first car I ever had, and I got it because my mom needed a new car, and she's like, if you can fix this one, you can keep it. And I spent every fucking penny I had in my bullshit savings to save that little Nissan Sentra. And several years later, the entire ignition circuit went out. The starting switch, everything. And I didn't have the money to fix it. But a guy down my road, he asked me about buying the car, and he's going to give me $500 for it. And he's like, I really need it because, my girlfriend, we just had our first kid, and I'm working at, like, McDonald's and all this other stuff. No, Burger King, I'm sorry. And he's like, I really need to be able to get back and forth to work. And he was like, I can give you, like, $300 now, I can give you the other $200 later. And when he showed up to buy the car, I was like, are you serious about fixing this car, taking care of it, take care of your family? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, alright, I'm gonna make you a deal. Give me the $300 that you're gonna give me right now, and forget about the rest of it. And he was like, no, I can't just not pay you the rest of this car. And I was like, look, you have a child, and I know your girlfriend can't work right now because she literally just had a kid. So you're supporting yourself, her, and your child. Take whatever money that you were saving up to pay me the rest of it, put it towards that. We'll call it even. I'm not even going to ask you about it. I'll sign over this shit right now. And I did. I sold that car. The car was probably worth like damn near $1,000. I sold it for like $300. Dude needed a car. What the fuck am I going to do? Say no? Motherfucker has a kid, and he needs this car. So, that car, however, was like a huge, like, nexus for a whole bunch of memories, and anytime I think about a 94 Sentra like that, I just get, like, flashbacks. That car was my mom's for the longest time. It sat up in so many places for the longest time, and it still fucking ran. It still fought like hell to keep running. It was a mean little son of a bitch, and it just kept going. And this has nothing to do with the Neckbeard stories that I'm going to tell you when it concerns this vehicle, but I swear to God, this car died. It did. It finally gave out when the guy I sold it to, his brother told me this, he got T-boned by a semi-truck. He walked away. His friend who was in the passenger seat walked away, and the car wound up in a scrapyard because it didn't. So, that car saved 2 people's lives. And that's how it died. And I think that's the most honorable fucking death you could ever give a machine like that. That is... She did good. She did real good. I'm proud of her. I love that car. She went out like a mean bastard like the day she was born. And I expect that from every vehicle I've ever owned. I expect that. Just... You got that. You can do it. So... That one, however... When I first got that car... it had a blown CV joint and everything else was busted out in it. My mom put it in the shop to replace the CV joints, but she needed a new car, so she bought the Oldsmobile. And she's like, look, if you can fix the Sentra, it's yours. I don't know what's wrong with it, but if you can fix it, it's yours. And I spent so many years working bullshit, working construction, kind of bullshit jobs, making sure that would work. At so many hours in that vehicle, hanging out with my Neckbeard friends. So this one is very much tied to an era. There's a reason I told you this whole story about the Sentra. It's because it's very much tied to a very specific era of neckbeards and friends that I knew and all this other stuff. I used to be able to travel from where I live now, which is about a 2.5 hour drive, to Thibodeau. It would take about half a tank. It would cost me like $20. That was many years ago. And I would go down there and I would stay with Elle, because he was the only guy I really kind of knew. And I knew my other friends, but we were just kind of having this weird in-between thing. I talked to them, like my friend Bubs and my other friend, who I keep intentionally not saying the name of because I don't know what nickname he's going for, and I will someday remember, but I won't. But he knows who he is. If he's listening to this, he knows who he is, and he's a great guy, and I love him. But we had a moment in our history where we didn't really talk nearly as much, and now I talk to them every day, and I absolutely love talking to them every day. They make me super, super happy. But I used to hang out with Elle and his friends a lot, and I would go down to Thibodeau in this car, and we would go on drives in the middle of the night. We would have all these fucking weird adventures. We would do all kinds of crazy shit. I'm not gonna lie, more than once I have gone out with him with the specific intention that him or his friend, not usually in my car, we would go in his friend's car or his mom's van, because Elle didn't have a vehicle for the longest time. And I would get I have a lot of memories. His mom had one of those. Elle's mom had one of those. Who is it? The Windstar? Who owns that? Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up right now in the middle of this fucking. In the middle of this fucking thing, I'm gonna look it up. Who made this? It is a van. Ford Windstar. Elle's mom had a Ford Windstar from. God, I couldn't even tell you what year. They all look the same. Maybe 2001? I don't remember. They all kind of have the same shape, but I specifically remember more than once we would go out somewhere, specifically to the cane fields, because Thibodeau is surrounded by cane fields, and nobody would go down the utility roads, and I would get, really fucked up on cheap wine with them, or cheap rum. Rum is my other thing. I try to steer clear of it, but you know what it is. So I would lay across one of these bench seats, and I remember staring at specifically the most back one, or the trunk itself, because that hatch on the back of the Windstar would just be completely open, and staring up at the stars while we're in the middle of this fucking cane field in December, where it's freezing out, and I'm wrapped up in a leather jacket I bought from a fucking thrift store for $35 because one of the pockets was ripped out. And I stitched it back together with commercial cord and shit like that. That kind of, not paracord, that really thick thread they used to sew jeans and jackets and shit. A lot of that. It looked horrible. And it was I still have it, actually. I was going to get that jacket to Sango. It's a Dockers leather jacket. It's hideous, but I loved it because it was my first leather jacket. And I remember wearing that and a pair of combat boots from some military thrift store, maybe Salvation Army somewhere. I don't even remember where I fucking found them. No, I do remember where I found them. My dad used to get this Army surplus magazine that was printed on the same paper as a lot of you may remember this, some of you won't, but if you're around my age, the Scholastic bookstores who would do the book order things, that real flimsy ass fucking paper, that same paper is what this fucking magazine was printed on. And I ordered a pair of combat boots through that because they were $20. And I had those, and the laces didn't come with it. I thought the laces came with it, but they didn't. So I threaded the laces with paracord that I bought from like some fucking sports outlet store, academy. I don't even fucking remember. It was somewhere in New Orleans, and they were like neon blue. And I made that shit work. And these fucking like, I don't know, maybe Vietnam era wilderness camouflage pants that were obviously like reprints. They were not the proper ones. I remember because they were like crazy soft. So they were not actual BDUs. They were made with some other kind of like fabric, but they were super comfortable, super soft, and I used to wear them all the time. And I remember laying in the back of Elle's van, totally fucking drunk out of my mind. And around that time would have been when my, I don't know, let's see, hold on, it was third or fourth broke up with me. And I remember being really drunk and laying on the floor of this van, and there's like 2 bench seats, and then there was the front seat. And Elle was on the front, not the front seat, the bench seat exactly to my left, so it would have been the second, because the front seat was 2 like captain's chairs. It was a minivan. The Ford Windstar is a minivan, so they're like 2 of the captain's chairs that they called them, which is like a horrible name for something that's in a fucking minivan, but whatever. And then 2 bench seats, and then the trunk, which was just like a big open space. Everything was carpeted because it's a minivan. And I remember laying there and staring out the back of this fucking minivan in like December, around New Year's. Had to be after Christmas, around New Year's, because it was freezing. Wrapped up in this jacket and these really thin-ass cotton pants and these fucking combat boots I got from a fucking backorder catalog. I always dress like a fucking bum. You know, like, in many of my streams, those of you who watch my streams have seen that I talk about, what's his name, King Cobra, and like the crazy shit that King Cobra does. But after watching documentaries, there are several documentaries about him, and I absolutely recommend them. I'm just like, holy shit, dude, he's like me if I never discovered YouTube. Like, I am absolutely that level of fucking loser, but you guys like me, so I'm okay with this. And like, I just remember being that fucking loser, like, staring out of the back of this van at the stars, and it's freezing, and I don't know why Elle was okay with me having all the doors open like this, because I really love the cold, but he was just okay with it. And I remember Elle was wrapped in this fucking like army surplus blanket we got from Goodwill for $2, and it was like olive drab, and I remember specifically because he was like, it was the warmest blanket. He repeatedly told me, up until the day we stopped talking, he was like, it's the best blanket I ever bought. It's the best $2 I ever spent. And I bought one too. We had 2 of them. They were like in a big ass bin, and they were all wrapped up, and we could never get them back in the little wrapped up bags because we were too like spasmatic to get them in there because we were like goofy fucking 20-year-olds. But it was like the best fucking blanket. I loved that thing. I have no idea. I think I got rid of it years ago. Like, I think it got trashed when my the house I lived in, like the AC fucking flooded the roof and it collapsed, and I think I had to throw it away. But like, I don't remember. Maybe it was then, maybe it was another time, but I remember we had 2 of them. They were like olive drab and horrible. And it was funny because like, he told me one time, he's like, no matter how many times I wash it, it always smells like corn chips, but it's still the best fucking blanket we ever bought. And he did. We washed the fuck out of those things, and then we could never get like the Goodwill smell. You know, it was always kind of like it's not great. But goddamn, if that thing wasn't warm, it was great. So I remember him being wrapped up in this blanket like a fucking mummy because he hated the cold, and I love the cold. And we're just laying there talking about, like, you know, on either side of this fucking bench. I couldn't see him, but, like, I could hear him. And we're talking about, like, relationships and just, like, everything. Because you're, like, 20. You know, I was, like, maybe 22, 23, thinking I understand the fucking universe. I don't know shit. I'm 23. You know? I got a hand-me-down car. I got fucking BDU pants I got from Walmart that are made out of fucking cotton. I got, you know, leather jacket that was made by Dockers and one of the pockets ripped out from God knows where because I bought it at a thrift store and I stitched it back together. I don't know shit about the universe, you know? I'm just some fucking mook. I don't know nothing. I'm some fucking dumbass. So, you know, I'm just kind of like hanging out there and we're talking about everything. And it was just kind of like, it was great, actually. You know, I want to say that, like, it's one of the, you know, because we always talk about, like, the stories of neckbeards and things like that of being, like, this horrible thing. But it actually kind of wasn't. Like, we talked about everything. Like, Elle and I were really close, and things changed whenever he decided he was going to start dating this one girl that I was just totally not okay with, because I was like, I'd just say about maybe 24, 25, and he started, like, hooking up with this girl who was, like, he was around my age, so we were both about maybe our mid-20s, and he starts hooking up with this girl who's barely out of high school, like, maybe fucking 16, 17, and that was my biggest cutoff point, is I was just like, okay, you really should not be fucking doing that, dude. We're adults. And he didn't want to hear it. And that, you know, that kind of shit really hurt, because dude was my friend. But, like, it turns out that he was actually a creep. And I just, there's certain things that, you know, I can't abide. I slapped the desk, sorry about that. There's certain things that I just cannot let go. So while we spent a lot of time hanging out and being friends and doing all this cool stuff, I just, that really wasn't a thing that I could let go. And it split up our relationship, and, like, I don't know what to say. Like, he was cool before that, you know? We had a lot of fun. We went places. Anytime I was in Thibodeau, dude was down to hang out. Even though the rest of his neckbeard friends didn't think I was cool. They didn't like me, but Elle was down with it. He was just like, no, he's cool, it's fine. But when he started getting into, like, the real cringy shit, and I was just like, this is the kind of stuff that would absolutely get me arrested, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I know a lot of you are probably asking, you know, like, well, why didn't you just, like, report him or whatever? It's like, it's because they already knew. PD already knew. This was a southern town, though, so they let that kind of shit slide. Big shock, the cops suck. I know, you're surprised. It's 2020 and everybody's so amazed that, like, you know, small town cops are kind of assholes. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. It was a thing. It sucked, but, like, that's what happened, so I just kind of let it go, because what was I going to do? Nobody's going to listen to me. I was just some fucking bum, you know? Lived out of his car more than once, and I'm like a fucking loser, so whatever. It is what it is. I didn't like it, and, you know, honestly, if you can believe it, she was actually probably more dangerous than he was. Because she had a lot of drug problems, and then he kind of got in on that as well. Yeah, it didn't end well. Elle, as far as I know, is still somewhere. I don't know what he's doing. Just bumming around somewhere or doing whatever. Hopefully, I'm going to be positive on this one. I really hope that maybe he kicked whatever habits he had and became like a fantastic dude. You know? Maybe he became 10 times the guy I ever thought he was. Maybe he owns his own business. Maybe he's a fucking millionaire. I don't know. I hope, though. I hope that whatever horrible shit he went through, he was able to get around that, put it behind him, and turn into a better guy. I hope that for all my neckbeard friends. I hope that for all the neckbeards I read about. I hope they realize that, like, hey, man, this is some horrible shit. And push that shit out of the way and grow into better people. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I can hope. I don't know if that means anything, but, I do. I hope. I hope for the best. Always. It most likely didn't happen in a lot of cases, but I can still hold out hope. Ain't no rule against that. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'll tell some more of these stories in the next episodes. I'm probably about to record a few immediately after this, because I have some others. But, this is rambling nonsense. This is the reason why I don't record while somewhat intoxicated, because it leads to this. And if you're listening to this and you're like, my god, you spent 30 minutes saying fucking nothing. Well, yeah. Sorry. By the way. Just imagine, this is what a lot of my earlier episodes were like. Like, the beginning of this channel sounds like this, only with a shittier microphone. There's a reason I don't talk about it nearly as much. My later content is actually, honestly, much, much better. So, not just in production value. But, yeah. I actually will probably record a few more of these, because I kind of want to talk on the good parts of what makes, like, Neckbeards a thing. Why these guys are my friends. Because they were my friends. And there was a thing about it, so might as well touch on a little bit of it. Anyway, this didn't say much, but I hope it at least was entertaining. If you did enjoy this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. If you really enjoy this and want me to keep doing it, I have a Ko-Fi and a merch store, which means you could literally buy a Moonhorse hoodie. That's a thing. I may or may not actually own one myself. I am that much of a loser. Anyway, I love you all. I'll see you guys in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this. Goodbye.